Will it be that waking up every day feeling that the world would be better without you? Imagine carrying a pain so heavy that the simple act of breathing feels like a punishment. This is the story of a woman who reached the bottom of the pit and discovered that the bottom of the pit is sometimes exactly where a new life begins. Today, you are going to know the story of Clara, a story that almost ended in tragedy, but that transformed into one of the most beautiful purposes that ever existed. Clara was 34 years old, and to those who looked from the outside, she seemed to have everything under control. She lived in a small but well-organized apartment in the city center. She worked as a high school mathematics teacher. Her students liked her because she explained things with patience and clarity, repeating the examples as many times as necessary. She smiled when she greeted the neighbors in the elevator or on the street. She posted photos of beautiful breakfasts on social media with colorful cups and fresh bread. But no one knew what happened when the door of the house closed every night. Every night, after taking a shower, Clara would sit on the cold floor of the bedroom with her back against the bed. She would look at the white ceiling and feel an enormous emptiness that no words could explain. She had lost her father very early, still in adolescence, and since then, she carried a hole in her chest. Her mother fought against a chronic disease in her joints and could barely get out of bed on bad days. The boyfriend she loved deeply had ended the relationship 2 years ago, saying that she was too good, but too heavy for him to carry. Since then, Clara carried the constant feeling that she was a burden to everyone around her. She fulfilled her obligations like a programmed robot. She gave classes, corrected tests with attention, prepared dinner for her mother, organized the medicines and cleaned the house. But inside, a constant and cruel voice whispered nonstop, "Why continue? No one really needs you. You only get in the way of other people's lives." Clara had not completely given up yet, but she was exhausted from pretending that she was fine all the time. She smiled at her students and neighbors, but inside she felt invisible and useless. And at that moment in her life, she had no idea that everything was about to change forever. It was a common Thursday. Clara woke up early, as always, prepared her mother's breakfast with care, packed her backpack with school materials, and left home, trying to keep an upright posture. When she arrived at the teacher's room, she heard two colleagues talking quietly in a corner. One of them said, "Poor Clara." The students comment that she looks like a ghost lately, so pale and distant. The other replied, "Yeah, I think she can't take it anymore. Better we don't get involved. Everyone with their own problems." Clara pretended she didn't hear, entered the classroom with a tight heart, and started the class. During the explanation about equations, a bolder student asked in front of everyone, "Teacher, are you okay? It looks like you're going to cry at any moment." The whole class fell into absolute silence. All eyes turned to her. Clara felt her face burn with shame and humiliation. She managed to finish the class with a trembling voice, but left the school running, with her eyes full of tears and her chest suffocated. At home, the situation was even worse. Her mother was in intense pain in her legs and back. She could barely move in bed. When Clara tried to help her get up to take the medicine, her mother, unintentionally, murmured in a low and tired voice, "Daughter, sometimes I think it would be better if I weren't here anymore to give you so much work." That innocent phrase was like a deep stab in Clara's chest. She felt the world spin. She went to her room, locked the door hard, and collapsed on the floor, crying convulsively. For the first time, she seriously thought about ending everything. If not even my own mother wants to be a burden to me, why do I exist? Why keep fighting if I only make others suffer? The internal conflict grew like an avalanche, and the worst was still to come that night. That same night, Clara made a definitive decision. She wrote a long and emotional letter to her mother, asking for forgiveness for not being able to continue, explaining how much she loved her and how much she felt she was not strong enough. She folded the paper with trembling hands and placed it on the nightstand next to her father's photos. Then she took the bottle of medicine she kept for her mother's headaches. She sat on the bed, looked at the photo of her father who had passed away, and whispered with a choked voice, "Dad, forgive me. I tried so hard, but I can't carry this alone anymore." The tears fell non-stop down her face. She had already counted the pills one by one with cold hands. Her heart was beating so hard it felt like it was going to jump out of her chest. At the exact moment she brought her hand to her mouth, the cell phone rang loudly in the silence of the room. It was an unknown number. Clara almost didn't answer, but something inside her, a last spark of life, made her slide her finger on the screen. On the other end of the line, a female voice, calm and a little hoarse, said gently, "Good evening. My name is Laura. I am a volunteer for the project. Listen to save. We received an anonymous message saying that someone in this region urgently needed to talk. Do you have a minute to talk to me?" Clara was paralyzed. Unable to pronounce a word, she could only cry softly, with interrupted breathing. Laura did not hang up. She simply waited patiently, without pressure. And in that long silence, Clara felt for the first time in a long time that she was not completely alone in the world. But the pain was still unbearable and seemed to have no way out. Laura continued speaking with a soft and welcoming voice. "I don't know exactly what you are going through, but I know what it feels like to feel that the world is too big and we are too small. I have already been there. I have wanted to give up too, more than once." Clara, between sobs, managed to say only, "I can't take it anymore being a burden to everyone, to my mother, to the students, to myself." Laura replied calmly, "You are not a burden. You are a person who has been carrying too much alone for too long. Tell me what is happening. I am here to listen without judgment." They talked for almost 2 hours straight. Clara told about her sick mother, about the boyfriend who left saying she was too heavy, about the students who noticed her sadness, about the constant feeling of uselessness and emptiness. Laura did not give cheap advice or ready-made phrases. She just listened with true attention, asking small questions that helped Clara to vent. And when Clara finally stopped talking, exhausted, Laura said something she would never forget. "Clara, sometimes we need to stop trying to be strong alone. There are people who need your weakness so they can help you. And there are people who need you exactly as you are now, with all your pain." But before hanging up, Laura scheduled a meeting for the next day in a small cafe near Clara S. house. "I will be there at 10 a.m. If you don't show up, I will understand perfectly. But if you show up, I will be waiting for you with a hot coffee." Clara hung up the phone without promising anything, but for the first time in many months, she did not take the pills. A small flame of hope, almost invisible, lit up inside her that night. The next day, Clara almost gave up on going to the meeting. The fear and shame were enormous, but something stronger pulled her out of the house. She arrived at the cafe with swollen eyes, cold hands, and a racing heart. Laura was a woman about 50 years old, with short gray hair, a serene look, and a welcoming smile. They sat at a discreet table at the back of the cafe. After a few minutes of light conversation about the weather and the coffee, Laura told her own story with honesty. She had lost her only son in a car accident 12 years ago. After the devastating loss, she also wanted to give up living and spent 2 years in deep depression, almost never leaving the house, until one day, while visiting a hospital, she met a mother who had just lost her newborn baby. Laura stayed by her side for hours, just listening to the crying and the pain. At that moment, she felt that her own pain, for the first time, served for something good. It was there that the project Listen to Save was born. Laura looked into Clara's eyes and said firmly, "I didn't save my son, but since then, I have already accompanied more than 180 people who thought about giving up, and many of them today are alive, happy, and helping other people." Clara felt a shiver run through her whole body. Then Laura added with a soft smile, "Clara, you are a mathematics teacher. You know how to explain difficult things in a simple and patient way. You have a heart that understands pain. You already know exactly what it feels like to feel this darkness." And it was at that instant that the great turning point in Clara's life came. Laura said calmly, "What if, instead of trying to disappear, you started listening to those who are suffering as you suffered? Your pain could turn into a bridge for someone." Clara remained silent for almost a full minute, processing those words. Something inside her moved deeply, as if a light had turned on in a dark place for a very long time. In the following months, Clara began to change slowly, step by step. First, she accepted professional help and started regular therapy with a psychologist. Then, she began to accompany Laura on the volunteer calls of the project. In the beginning, she only listened, not knowing much what to say. But little by little, she realized that her own pain made her capable of understanding what others could not express in words. One day, a desperate teenager called, saying she no longer wanted to live because her parents fought all the time and blamed her for everything. Clara, with her voice still trembling, told part of her own story without heavy details. She said, "I also thought I was an unbearable burden to everyone, but someone showed me that my pain could become a bridge for another person." The girl remained silent for a while. Tense sighed with an emotional voice. "No one has ever told me that before." Clara felt, for the first time in years, that her life had a greater meaning than she imagined. She no longer needed to be perfect all the time. She no longer needed to smile forcefully to hide the pain. She just needed to be present and willing to listen. The woman who almost gave up was now helping others not to give up. The transformation was profound and real. The pain had not completely disappeared, but it had gained a powerful new meaning. 2 years later, Clara was standing in a small auditorium, in front of more than 50 people who, like her, had already thought about giving up on life. Her mother, now more stable thanks to the correct treatment, was sitting in the front row, smiling with pride in her eyes. Clara spoke with a firm but emotional voice. "I almost gave up on life because I thought I was good for nothing and that I was a burden. Today I know that my greatest weakness has transformed into my greatest mission. It is not about never feeling pain. It is about not letting the pain be the end of the story." She ended by saying with teary eyes, "If you are listening to this and feel that you can't take it anymore, know that your pain is not useless. It may be exactly what someone needs to hear one day. You have not reached the end of your story yet. The most beautiful chapter may be beginning now, right in the middle of your pain." The audience applauded, standing up. Many cried openly. Clara also cried, but they were different tears. Tears of someone who found purpose in the middle of the deepest pain. Life does not always take away the pain. Sometimes it transforms the pain into a mission. And when that happens, the person who almost gave up becomes the reason why others decide to continue. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Have you ever been through something similar? Leave in the comments. I believe that pain can turn into purpose. Leave your like, your comment, and subscribe to the channel for more real stories of overcoming. And if you are going through a difficult moment, know that you are not alone. Continue. Your purpose is still being written. End.